Hey guys, Frooshy here, and welcome to my Star's End guide for Striker Succession. I just had to do that intro for a friend of mine. He's gonna get a kick out of this. Yo, I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. I don't like Star's End. It's not a bad spot per se. It's actually really good money grinding here. But if I could sum up this place in about 3 words, I'd say it's duel for spot. Like seriously. I've been trying to record this video for like 2 weeks. I've barely had a main rotation open for more than an hour where some kid just comes in and be like, hey, you want a duel? I actually did my absolute best to avoid main rotation for this very reason, because at least in like Cliffside or Temple rotation, and sometimes even side, like I would be left alone, but in main, dude, forget about it. Alright, so that's enough complaining out of me. But, so the main reason why most people come to this spot is mainly for the earring. This earring is the Black Distortion Earring. It sits anywhere between 290 mil to like 310 mil. And you can get it, I mean, sometimes once in an hour, sometimes once every 3 hours, but you get them frequently enough to make the spot incredibly worth it. And when you get an earring, you're making about 400 to 500 mil for that hour. It's kind of crazy. Oh, and you also get quite a few black stones, but you're mainly here for the earrings, you know? Alright, so in Star's End we have 6 rotations. You have main, side, mountain, cliff, temple, and gate. Of these 6, we can only really do 4 of them. Those 4 are main, side, cliff, and temple. We can't really do gate as we overclear it pretty heavily, and mountain is too big for our movement in our kit. Alright, so in Star's End, your main money comes from your trash loot. The trash loot is worth 15,500 each. And there's a secondary trash loot you get from killing the towers, which is 750 silver each. Common drops are black stones and traces of origins. Expect anywhere between like 50-ish an hour of these. Rare drops are distortion earrings, which are like 300 mil. Uncommon drops are your BMC precisions, not the good ones, the gloves. Massive pure magic, which are honestly troll as hell to get. And the clear black star crystal, which is used to create the offhand crystals. For money per hour, you can expect anywhere between 120 mil to like 400 mil. Alright, so for buffing, I just want to get one thing out of the way. Simple Chromio is better here by a little bit, but it's not worth running just because you're most likely going to run into somebody who's going to ask you to duel for the spot, or someone might flag up on you. And in that case, you're kind of at a disadvantage because they might have an exquisite Chromio popped while you have a simple Chromio popped. But it is better, so if you want to run it, you have the risk right there. All the other buffs are the same. I run Frenzy Drafts, Villas, and Spirit Perfume Elixirs here. Okay, now for add-ons. I run these add-ons everywhere, but what you really want to prioritize is having attack against monsters on Rampaging Predator, and critical hit rate on Skull Crusher. It's also nice to have the monster damage buff on Crimson Fang since you start off your skill rotation with it. Everything else is pretty much your preference. I run all defense on Roaring Tiger, which if you feel like you don't have enough DP for this area, or you feel like you're taking too much damage, I would suggest running that too. But yeah, those are add-ons. Alright, so for recommended gear for Star's End, I'd say at the bare minimum, you want at least 257 AP with Kudum and 293 DP, but even then, I would probably push your DP to 301 before really coming here. If anything, you can pop a well-tended elixir if you're in a dicey situation, but for recommended, I'd say 261 AP Kudum and 309 DP are pretty stable for here. You should be netting some pretty good money and be tanky enough to not be chunked by the mobs. Okay, so this is mostly just gonna be like an example of a pull. I'm over here right now in gate rotation. This applies in literally every rotation here, so just take what I'm doing and just, I guess, mimic it. But you want to pull as far away from these unstable star debris as possible. Striker has very small AoEs and not a lot of pulling potential. So when you pull to these and you knock them down, you can't exactly like DPS them as well as you could if you just group them up and just damage them, right? if you end up pulling towards the debris, make sure they're at least clumped up so they knock down in front of you, and you can abuse that fact to kill them really quickly. But yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna go over the skill rotation that you use in this spot. This is pretty much the same one that you use in Sakraya and in History and Aukman. But it essentially starts with you pulling them with Crouching Wolf. From that point on, you go into Crimson Fang Tree, into Roaring Tiger, into Scar Crush, dash behind them, Adamantine Tree, to Rampaging Predator, hold down left mouse button, into Roaring Tiger once more. If you're not dead at this point, you can just recycle the Crimson Fang Tree, and they should be dead at this point. Okay, so I do want to note that Striker's movement is very limited. All you really have is your dash and a little bit of movement from like your Twisted Collision. So not a lot of strikers know about this, and actually this is something I learned very recently, that we have a really cool movement ability that we can use to go from pack to pack in rotations that have like really big gaps in them, and it's pretty simple actually. You do Knee Hammer into, where is it? Into Stalking Wolf. It's a super nice teleport. Look at this. Okay, let's try that again. Like that's quite a bit of range. And you can use this to travel between packs so you don't waste your martial shards, and it overall just saves time if you're able to get it down consistently. So like, for example, I just teleported. It has a pretty good range, so you should be able to use it pretty well to get between packs. But it's mainly used, I mainly use this skill to get between pack to pack in the tempo rotation, because there's one big part of the tempo rotation that has a really big gap in it, and you're forced to use up all your martial shards, or you're forced to just dash there, which takes up time and you lose trash loot. Alright, so this is me actually grinding main rotation. Generally, I make a habit out of using Rage Hammer between every pack, either to close the gap or to just aggro more mobs around me, since it's a pretty decently sized AoE. But you guys see me pulling all these packs kind of weirdly. The reason why I'm doing this mostly is because Striker's pulls are very short range, and I have enough AP to overclear this rotation if I don't extend to these packs, so it's a little bit more awkward for me than it would be for someone with slightly lower AP, because all they really got to do is pull, a lot less packs and not have to worry as much about overclearing. In main, I can get somewhere between 5.5 and I'm gonna slightly highball it, estimating around 5.8 being my maximum. Obviously this is not entirely accurate, it's just an estimate based on my experience in this spot. But 5.5 is a number that I've been pulling pretty consistently while being new to the rotation. So with more experience and time and just knowing how to pull better, that number will obviously go up. But yeah, generally the main idea is to keep them as far away from the towers as possible. As you see, I'm just pulling them away from the tower. And if I have my 30 shards up, I just kind of pull 2 packs together and DPS them down from there. They're kind of awkwardly spaced around, but it's manageable. I will say that I get interrupted in my combos a lot due to the mobs either staggering me or knocking me down or knockbacks, but that's to be expected. Striker Succession is really unprotected, Like our entire adamantine and crimson fang trees are unprotected except for the starting skill. So expect to be hit out of your skill tree quite often, and just learn to improvise and just do something that's off cooldown at that point, because if you're cancelled halfway through, then you're gonna lose damage. Alright, so this is a small segment from when I was grinding in Cliffside rotation. Cliff is literally right behind main rotation. It's one of the more popular rotations on this area. You can net pretty good money here, and I think my best hour here was around 5.2k, but you can definitely get higher than that with practice. Notice how I'm pulling 2 packs together from each side. I do this mostly because, I mean, we can hit the mob limit like that, and it's more efficient. And also, I clear them quick enough to do so. I'm also pulling away from the towers, because if we pull them to the towers and we knock them down, the fact that we have small AoE just makes it even harder for us to clear here. So best advice is to just avoid them entirely, pull them to a corner, let them all group up before DPSing them. It's quicker. The towers, in all honesty, just make it harder and more annoying to do it. Also, do note that your crouching wolf stiffens the smaller mobs, so try to pull them from a distance. We're not like warriors where we can just slam the ground and alert everything to our presence. If we do our crouching wolf with 30 shards, like, we will stiffen them if we're too close, which in essence slows down pulls. So getting that down actually increases your efficiency by quite a bit. In some parts of this rotation, you actually want to be using the knee hammer into stalking wolf combo. It lets you close the gap pretty quickly, and right here I actually messed it up. I normally pull to the center where those mobs just were, but instead I improvised and pulled them over here to the corner. Doesn't really matter where you pull them, but or they're just slightly closer for me. Alright guys, that's all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something new. I was asked a lot for this video, so I hope I managed to deliver something. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and do subscribe. I plan on releasing more content, not just striker related content. And make sure to check me out on Twitch. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. See ya!